Welcome to the Australian Finance Podcast, a podcast for people who want to learn more about their personal finances and get the most from their money. This series is hosted by Kate Campbell from How to Money and Owen from Rask Finance.
The Australian Finance Podcast is provided for educational purposes only. The information is general in nature and does not take into account your needs, goals, or objectives. What that means is the information does not apply to you specifically. So consider getting the advice of a licensed and trusted professional before acting on the information. Kate, welcome to this episode of the Australian Finance Podcast.
Yes, and today we're talking about one of the topics that's pretty interesting, which is side hustles.
Cool. What's a side hustle?
Well, I would say a side hustle is something you do on the side of a full-time or a part-time job for a bit of extra cash. It's not technically designed to replace your income. You're just doing something you enjoy, and you're just getting a bit of extra money that you might use to boost your emergency fund or help pay the bills or something like that, and you enjoy doing it.
So you're not telling us all to just, start a fashion company and leave our jobs?
No.
Oh, damn it.
No.
Okay, cool. Well, this episode, I'm going to be guided by you because I reckon you're the expert on side hustles because you have a pretty cool one. And one of those is sitting here with me now, right? Like doing the podcast. That's a side hustle for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so most people don't know this, but Kate also has a full-time job.
Yes.
In the finance industry.
Yep. Every day.
Yep. And she does this after hours. So we record this. It's currently a Monday evening. So, Kate, this is your side hustle. Yep. And it's a pretty good one to have. And you got another podcast series, so...
Yeah, so that keeps me pretty busy.
Yeah, cool. I like it. All right, so I'll throw it over to you. Let's get stuck into it.
Yeah, so I thought pretty much I wanted to talk a little bit about what side hustles are, generating some ideas for your side hustle, some of the important things to consider, and some of the experiences that we've had in the past from kids to grown-ups of side hustles. I mean, some were put on us by force by our parents.
Yep.
And just some
Thanks,
interesting ideas and resources because there's, as you realise, as you look at some of the resources, will point you in the direction of there are an infinite number of potential side hustles and you probably never think of them until someone tells you that they do that. I remember someone who had a secondary market for those fidget spinners when they were going crazy a few years ago.
Oh,
so
right.
they were just buying in bulk from Alibaba in China and just marking it up massively and selling them through just a really quickly created online website, and they were making a killing. So just some of these interesting ideas that could spark some inspiration on your side hustle journey.
Sounds very entrepreneurial.
Yeah, so I feel like it's almost adding a little bit of entrepreneurship to your life without having to invest your life savings, put the house on the line. So I think that's definitely a key component of a side hustle. You're not putting a heap of money into it. Like I wouldn't be putting more than $1,000 into it at all.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be getting a business loan. I wouldn't be putting the house on the line. So you're starting small and doing something. It's probably even low margins, but just definitely not putting a heap of money into it and just experimenting. And it's just supposed to be a bit of fun.
Warren Buffett has the analogy, don't test the water with both feet.
Yeah.
It's kind of like just don't jump straight in. Take your time. And the analogy of Scott Pape was a trapeze. So you don't let go until you can see the other one in sight, and that's the right time to let go. And it's kind of like you don't just go out and quit your job. You build this up on the side. You do all the things right, and then you just slowly chip away at it because you don't want to take so much risk that end up losing out in the long run because you've taken so much risk. You've taken undue risk. And when you could have just started it slowly. So this is actually, I've learnt by mistake here, like trial by fire. I started the company that I had, and I started a website before that, and I just went into it way too soon. I should have kept my job and just worked away on the side. I did that for about a year, but even longer still. So anyway.
And I know some people have when you listen to those business podcasts that talk about the success stories, and some have complete success from going from just quitting the job with nothing and building their way up. But I think those stories are pretty far and few between.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of survivorship bias there. So like you only hear about the really good ones, right? They don't invite the guy or girl that who had this side hustle fail.
Yeah.
That's not what people want to hear. So like you have to also remember that, we know that only 20% of businesses make it past 1 to 2 years and those types of things.
So. And I think a lot of people don't want their side hustle to become anything more than that. It's just a good way to add a little bit of income and have sort of a second income stream coming in. But they love what they do. They don't want to sort of turn their side hustle into a full-time business. But then you have other cases, and some of the resources we'll point you to later actually talk about that, where people have started a side hustle and it's just become such a successful product or service that they've been able to quit their day job and take it on full time.
Yeah, I think I think you touched on a point there about being like enjoying it. Like you have to enjoy what you want to do, right? Like there's no point hating your job and then starting something else that's just going to stress you out.
Yeah.
Like do something that you're really passionate about and find something that adds value to other people's lives and you take a lot of pleasure from doing that. And I think that's probably a good place to start, Kate, is because people always think, yeah, I want to get a side hustle. Yeah, I want passive income. Yeah, I want all these kind of things, but they don't know where to start. So in terms of generating ideas, what are some of the ways that people can start to think about finding a side hustle or developing a side hustle for themselves?
Yeah, so I think definitely thinking about what are some of the skills that you have, whether that's through work or out of work, that you might be able to monetize. So are people willing to pay you for your expertise in XYZ area? Do you have something you can teach them? Maybe you're going to be teaching them in person, teach them online, teach them via Skype. Maybe English as a second language might be something you can do via Skype, or even music lessons. So if there's maybe a skill that you can give to someone, and then people go the extra step and they convert that skill to an online course or a podcast or some sort of membership site. So people take an existing skill set they have and monetize that. Another way is just looking to solve a problem in your own life or your friends and family's lives. If there's a way to make some system better. And I think that's like how Airbnb all started, because the guys wanted to monetize the spare mattress in their room when there was festivals on. I think that's a little bit, and just how can you make your life easier? And I think I was reading about a great Australian startup that's sort of coming soon by a young university entrepreneur, and it's actually all that stuff you have when you're at uni for parties and things, being able to rent that out for a day. So instead of having to buy all the decorations and equipment, and you can just rent the stereo and rent the costumes and rent everything like that. So sort of unlocking the cash flow in your item.
Okay, cool. But it doesn't always have to be something like super impressive, right?
No.
I think that's where a lot of people think, I need something that's going to make me all this money, or it's just one really good idea. And you frankly, most people don't have them.
Yeah.
Most people don't have the ability to create some sort of software product or an app or something like that, right, that goes viral and they make millions of dollars. And so, like, I think one thing that I've noticed when I talk to successful investors or business people, what have you, a common trait they tend to have is that they experiment it early on. So this entrepreneurial streak tends to, I guess, show up again and again throughout their life, even if they've failed once before. And I'm not saying like you need to just try everything and see what happens, or just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. What I tend to see is people who take a risk and they take it in like calculated ways, they tend to be willing to do that again and again and again. So it can start with something really small, like even things like my wife and I were going through her wardrobe. She's going to love me saying this. But we're going through her wardrobe and finding clothes that other people might buy as secondhand. That it turns out that that's a really big thing.
Yeah.
Right?
And then you book a market stall and try and sell them.
Yeah, that's it. And you might find that, hey, this is actually easier than what I thought it was going to be, and I can actually make money from this. So, it doesn't have to be a glamorous thing that, it's like you make your own clothes. It could be just that you sell secondhand clothes.
Yeah, and I know a few people that flip op shop goods.
There you go.
And then just sell them on eBay. So a lot of people, they use eBay for their side hustle by importing stuff, reselling it, getting things locally. And that's recycling them as well, and a bit of a profit there.
And I think you just need to give it a shot just to find out if it works sometimes. You just actually have to try it, and you never know. So you've got podcasts, You've heard of, we've all heard the stories of like Airbnbs and that type of thing. Are there any other really interesting ideas that you've seen pop up again and again over time?
Yes, I think often cooking is in some form. Maybe if it's making cakes, a lot of people that's kind of a one-off thing people need, but often people a lot do this for Instagram. So a lot of more visual sort of side hustles. If you're selling makeup services, if you're selling even hairdressing, nail services, if you're selling cake making, catering, a lot of people do catering on the side, and that sort of stuff. You can just set up an Instagram page and start sharing that as well. I think maybe with the food, you probably have to have a appropriate kitchen.
You wouldn't want me cooking for you.
No. So, but I think with social media, especially, you can start connecting with friends and family and sharing it through word of mouth really quickly. And what else? So probably produce. So maybe making jams. I don't know if that's kind of old fashioned now. Honey, beekeeping.
Yeah, beekeeping's
one. Gardening, even going around and helping other people with their gardening, because a lot of people, especially in a city, don't have time to deal with that. Cleaning, even.
Yeah, these are all good side hustles, right? Those are ones that are accessible to anyone.
Yeah.
Like young people that stay at home during the day. You can do all of these things that
and even
quote-unquote busy
dog
people
minding, because I have a few colleagues that have actually used, there's apps now, I'm not sure what, but you can say, I can mind dogs in this area, and they, instead of sending it to a dog kennel, which are really expensive, or other pets, they just drop them off locally. So you get to meet local people and you get to look after animals.
Now, I heard of a few different ones recently. But wait a sec, what did you say your other side hustle was earlier on? Minding children?
Yeah. I think that's one of the oldest one in the book. I think when I was sort of 10 or 11, I was for $5 an hour babysitting about 3 kids, and I'd just done the letterbox drop. I made my own flyers in Microsoft Word with those, that really, that rainbow heading that you could get.
Like the word art?
Yeah, in the word art. So just sort of making flyers and putting them in letterboxes and babysitting strangers' kids for $5 an hour.
Cool.
And looking after their ferret too.
Oh, cool. Speaking of minding, you actually reminded me of something. Ferret. That's a good one. You actually reminded me of people that do, I know a few people that do this now. They do house sitting.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. I did not know that. Like, you actually go to people's houses. You register on websites and you pay like a small membership fee. Then you go and you live in their house. And that's cool because you save on rent. Yeah. Or you don't have a mortgage, obviously. So you just go there. That's just like reverse Airbnb kind of thing. You don't even have a property. You're just finding a way to minimize your costs. And that's entrepreneurial in itself. And if you do that enough, you're going to save a lot of money very quickly.
Yeah. That's house sitting full time is a pretty lucrative side hustle, you'd think, in terms of the amount of rent you'd save.
Absolutely. And some places might be perks. You might get one with the pool. That's pretty cool. Anyway,
I think anything like, especially service, especially if you can do something to make someone else's life easier, like they're pretty transferable skills. You don't usually have to have any particular qualification and things like that. Maybe they'll want you to have a first aid certificate to look after someone's kids, but most of these things don't require much. And then I actually had a few interesting ideas that a great author called Chris Guillebeau, who also runs a podcast.
Is that the one you mentioned the other week?
Yeah, it's what is it? It's called Side Hustle School, and for about 2 years now, he's published a 5-minute podcast every day on a different side hustle idea that someone's told him about.
Cool. And
if you want inspiration, you go there because, I mean, just a couple of the other ideas that completely things you'd never think about. One was personalized funeral urns.
Okay.
I mean.
So someone would like paint an urn for you? Or like...
I mean, I didn't go further than that. I kind of stopped there. But bridal gear rental, a rabbit breeder, which I thought was a good one for Owen.
Yep.
XL courses, poisonous toad removal.
Scooter tours?
Yeah.
Late night cookie delivery?
Yes. So these...
Hey, this candy subscription boxes, that's been a big thing. Like, that's done really well overseas.
And subscription boxes overseas and in Australia are pretty popular.
Yeah, if you think of something that you reckon people will love and love to receive regularly, or even if you mix it up for them, and you can sell that via subscription, it's pretty lucrative.
Yeah, you package something up, and some people even do like drop shipping where they'll buy a large quantity of one item from overseas where production's quite cheap, and then they'll resell it or repackage it, resell it through another website.
Well, it's got to get here somehow, right?
Yeah.
Here's one, like side hustles with benefits. Biking wine tours. I feel like that's either going to end in disaster, or it's just going to be the most amazing side hustle that anyone's come up with.
Yeah, I think a friend took one a few months ago, and they around the Mornington Peninsula, and they got a tour around all these different wineries in a minibus because there was a group of them, and took them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so they didn't have to worry about driving, and they got to see all the places. So I think it's just your imagination is your limit. And if you definitely check out, he's also written a book called 100 Side Hustles, which I got from the library because it's quite a large book. But that had so many different ideas, which could give you some inspiration, because really anything, there's billions of people in the world. I think you can find someone that's willing to pay for your crazy idea.
Yeah, and we're not at the end of the podcast yet, but if you have one of these crazy side hustles, please write into us. I'd love to hear about them.
Yeah, it'd be cool to, in a future episode, discuss some listener side hustles.
Yeah, if you have any, please send them through. We're just doing this on the fly. But if you have something, please send it through to us. Kate, so this is a finance podcast. We talk about business and entrepreneurship and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But for those people who have an idea and they're thinking, yeah, I've got this idea, but how do I do this right? What are some of the things, like the important financial things that they've got to consider, maybe before or while they're getting one of these spun up?
Yeah, so I think that definitely on the money side, you've got to consider that this is actually money you're earning. And as such, the government wants to tax it. So definitely that is something you don't want to think about. And quite a few Uber and Airbnb drivers have sort of got themselves into a sticky tax scenario because they've sort of used up all the income along the year, and they're above the tax-free threshold. There we go. And they don't actually have any money put aside for tax. So especially if you're earning quite a lot from your side hustle, you want to start putting some money aside to pay that tax bill, or you're going to end up with an ATO liability.
Yeah, if it's like any more than a couple grand, you don't want any rude surprises. So
yeah, especially if you've got a day job as well, you're definitely going to have to pay tax on your earnings.
100%. So you've actually, in the show notes that we're going to provide, you've actually brought up a pretty good website to check out, which is business.gov.au. I use that when I was setting up my business, and it's actually just a handy little thing. You can do like this sort of like walkthrough checklist thing, and they present you with like a list of potential like government related things you might need to consider, like have you got an ABN or Australian business number? Have you got a business name? Those types of things. I think one thing to take note of when you get a business name is that it doesn't protect you against like encroaching or infringing upon someone else's copyright or patent or anything like that. You have to go to a separate website for that. But people think because, I've got the domain name, or I've got this name that I've been trading under, no one else seems to use it, that it's all well and good. You'd actually want to check out the trademarks website. We'll put a link in the show notes. But those like little things, and that website, business.gov.au, will direct you to those websites. How about, you mentioned here personal liability and insurance.
Yeah, so if you are a sole trader, you can end up like you have unlimited liability for whatever you're doing. So it's a little bit different if you set up a company structure and things like that. But essentially, someone might, if you do something bad or provide a bad product that ends up injuring someone or anything like that, and you could be sued because you have sold a good or a service to someone for money. So that's something you definitely want to check out at business.gov.au because it's quite different for each scenario. But I mean, if it's a food product that you're creating or doing, you might need to get appropriate licenses. I know, like you have to get your kitchen checked out and approved.
Don't sell raw chicken.
Yeah. So there's different rules for different things. Like if you're providing personal training, there might be additional. You might have to get personal insurance cover and things like that. So it's definitely if you're doing things, you want to check out what sort of cover you might need. Like I know if people do markets, often you need to have insurance cover for that market stall.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it's worth just checking out this website, checking out the insurer's website, those types of things.
Yeah,
okay,
because people are, if you are providing a good or service, people do expect a standard, and they won't be happy if you
I think
put something like put nuts in a food item that says no nuts, like that could come back on you.
Yeah. The basic thing is here is if you're going to do it right. This stuff isn't the glamorous side of the business, but it's actually the important side. And if you do it right the first time, as I've found out, if you do it right the first time, then you don't need to do it again. So
and generally in your day job, the company takes care of all this for you. They've done the insurance, and so you don't think about any of this. Like I think most people, everyone has to have work cover and things like proper companies. So it's something you will have to think about with your side hustle, and definitely make sure you're covered, because you don't want the thing on the side to become a monster that you can't deal with.
For sure, 100%. Okay, we've got some other smaller ones here. It's still important. It's just keep records of the bills that you're paying, so you can. It's just as simple as a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You add up all the things you've spent money on, or you could just have a plastic bag in your desk and then put all your receipts in there you think might be tax deductible. That
Don't leave them in the sun because they fade.
Yeah, that's it. Take to your accountant, etc. Or you could just set up a special folder in your email, your Gmail, Apple, Microsoft, whatever, and just have it like a tax folder. Take photos of stuff, email it to yourself, whatever, put in that folder. So you got a record of everything. And same with your insurances, obviously, put that in a safe place. Google Drive. This is not a product recommendation, but Google Drive is free if you want to set up
I definitely think it's easier to have a Google Doc that you keep a record of all your receipts and all your income during the year, so at least you know what receipts to keep track of, because otherwise it can turn into a bit of a nightmare doing your personal tax and this additional stuff.
Absolutely. Okay, so you've got a really good point here, Kate, which is don't let it impact your day job performance.
Yeah, so you don't want to be coming into work after you stayed up to 2 a.m. working on your side hustle and doing a terrible job because you're completely exhausted. And and then you might end up negatively impacting your job. So definitely you want to keep the side hustle and not let it affect your work.
For sure. That's good advice, because you don't want to risk your main biscuit just for this one.
And definitely check with your employer and your contract, because sometimes contracts might say you're not allowed to do a specific thing that conflicts with the business. So I mean, definitely check that. And sometimes you have some career professions, you have to get permission to do some external work. So check all that and make sure you're in the green.
Yeah, no non-compete clauses in your employment contract. That's a good one for the finance professionals out there. Okay, well, I think that brings us to the end of the show. I have to just quickly run off and try and find out how I can get myself in the business of children's flashcards. I'm going to start a side hustle.
Owen's next side hustle. I still think rabbit breeding would be good for you.
Yeah.
You've already got 2. You
but I don't know if it's podcast worthy, but we had to give them the snip because they breed like rabbits. Drum roll.
Good job, Evan.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the podcast episode on side hustles. Kate, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for listening.
And if we have podcast questions and side hustles,
send them to me. howtomoney.online and Twitter and Instagram at howtomoneyAUS.
Yep, or you can lodge them on the Rask Finance website. That's raskfinance.com. Find me on Twitter at Owen Rask, or you can send us an email, podcast@raskfinance.com. All right, until next time.
See you guys.